Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Love the Job, Hate the Boss. Am I the a-hole for leaving the family group chat with a petty message after my dad added the secret brother I just found out about? My 32 female parents have been divorced for longer than I can remember, and my dad and I have never had a great relationship. We are nice to each other, call for birthdays and such, but not a real father-daughter relationship. My dad lives in Kentucky, and my sister and I live in Texas. About a year ago, I called him and told him I wanted us to be closer. His solution was a group chat with me, him, and my sister where we would play daily games like Wordle or Connections, and post the results. After a few months, I told him that while the games were fun, they weren't actually a relationship. He dismissed me and said he thought the game chat was good enough. I was hurt, but I gave up and accepted that Wordle scores were all I was ever going to get from him. 2 months before my wedding, my dad dropped a bombshell. He FaceTimed my sister and me to tell us we have an older brother, Brandon, that he had kept secret our entire lives. I got married, things were civil, and I tried to process having a new sibling. A few months ago, without any warning or heads up, my dad added Brandon and Brandon's wife to our small game group chat. Suddenly, the chat I started to get closer to my dad became the Dad and Brandon show. They talk constantly, while my sister and I are basically just spectators in a chat I originally created for us. I called my dad to tell him I felt pushed out and that he still wasn't making an effort with me. He gave me a guilt trip speech about how the chat is the brightest part of his day and he just wants all his kids to be together. I'm done. I feel like my request for a relationship was ignored, then hijacked. I am known as the dramatic one in the family, so I decided to lean into it. I sent a message to the group chat. I said, I'm bowing out. I realized this has become the Dad and Brandon catch-up hour, and I love that for you guys. But since I'm still waiting on the relationship I actually asked for months ago, watching from the sidelines isn't for me. Brandon, so glad you're here. Dad, I'll leave you to your brightest part of the day. I'm sure you won't even notice I'm gone. Winky face. Then I immediately left the group. My sister, who I warned beforehand, thinks it was iconic. Am I the a-hole for leaving the chat this way? No, Opie, I don't think you were the a-hole. Were you sarcastic and ironic in the way you said it? Sure, I don't think it was petty either, because, well, you just said what you felt. That chat was something that you wanted to do. Actually, you wanted a relationship with your dad. He suggested that chat, which is not the same thing. I'm really sorry you got stuck with a dad like that. He's basically a stranger who doesn't really care, and then just included Brandon, which, again, good for Brandon, but if he wanted a chat to just chat with Brandon, he can have a one-on-one with him, not necessarily include you guys in it. You don't even know this guy. And also the wife, like, no, what is this? No, I think it's right that you left. You told your dad how you felt. Maybe he took it well, maybe he didn't. Doesn't really matter at this point. You're over it. You're done. So good for you, OP. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Last Meaning 6406 says, so basically he was able to be a dad, just not to you. Not the a-hole. You asked multiple times for more of a relationship, and he settled for Wordle while chatting it up with the kid he kept secret from you. Does he not have his own chat with his son? Writing Wonderland 87 says, not the a-hole. I'd start calling him by his first name, but I'm extra petty today. And Dopey responds, except he likes it when people call him Captain Dan, which is super annoying to me. Daisy1245 says, agreed. No matter how little fathers care about their daughters, it seems to really hit a nerve when you use their first names. The last few years I was speaking to my father, I used his first name. That was the only time I ever got any emotion other than indifference from him, lol. OP, you're not the a-hole. Do what you have to do so this doesn't eat at you. Tired Goth says, not the a-hole. It's ridiculous and cruel for him to parade the closeness you wanted with him in front of you, with someone else, and to a secret sibling no less. It's time to match your sperm donor's energy. Quaplasuvo says, your dad just doesn't seem to be able to connect to his daughters, yet has no problem with his son. It's a male thing, and the son is what he considered his firstborn and more relatable too. I know what you're going through, but if he hasn't put the effort forward now, he never will. Time to let him go. You can't make him want to be interested, and no, it's not your fault. Sorry. And Aggressive Walrus 516 says, not the a-hole. Honestly, your dad sounds like mine. He only communicated so he could tell people how I was doing to keep up his social life. I went no contact and life has been less stressful for me. It's been way over 6 to 7 years since I've even seen or heard from him. He used to send me Facebook messages, but since I left him on red, he got the message. I'm not a kid anymore, and I am no longer legally required to keep a relationship with someone who spends more time with his stepkids than his actual kids. The community agrees OP is not the a-hole and that she should just cut him off and move on. So now let's move on to the first of 2 updates to see what happened next. Hey everyone, first off, thank you all so much for the support and validation. 8,000 views is absolutely wild and a little bit nerve-wracking, but it really helped knowing so many people were in my corner. So here's what went down after I hit send on that message. The immediate aftermath was silence from my dad. Crickets. Still haven't heard a single word from him, which is making me a little nervous, honestly. But the best part of this whole mess, Brandon and his wife both reached out to me privately, apologizing for intruding on our group chat. I immediately shut that down and let them know it was 100% my dad's doing, not theirs. I also owned my dramatic one reputation, telling them that sometimes stupid stuff like this is the only way my dad hears me. I told him I'd love to have a relationship with them, and Brandon just said, there's no time like the present. We had a really great 45-minute FaceTime call, just the 2 of us siblings getting to know each other. It turns out my dad is a master of manipulation and storytelling on both ends. To me, my dad made it seem like he and Brandon were besties who loved their morning chats. To Brandon, my dad made it seem like my sister and I had this amazing great relationship with him. The reality? Brandon is super hurt by my dad. He didn't even know about him until he was 18, and he only feels obligated to have a relationship for his own kids' sake. We both got pretty emotional about it all. The overall consensus between us is that we're all just kind of over my dad's nonsense. So, while I'm still waiting on a response from my father, I gained a great new brother and perspective. Thanks again for all the advice, everyone. I'll update again if the old man ever decides to speak to me. Okay, well, OP so far's got crickets from dad and the start of a new relationship with the brother she didn't know, which I think is awesome. She also promised an update and we have it, so let's move on with the final update to see how this story ends. This one may not be as easy to read. I have been using AI to help my ADHD storytelling better, and it's not being super helpful today. Laughing emoji. Thanks again for all the support and for letting me know I wasn't the a-hole. As promised, here is the update on the situation with my dad. My last update ended with me still waiting to hear from my dad. Well, he reached out the next day, yesterday, with a text that said, "Let me know when you're up." I responded letting him know I was up, but also that I didn't want to discuss what happened in the group chat, just that I wanted to be done with it. I told him I just wanted him to call me every once in a while and make me feel like he actually cares, rather than just using the convenient group chat for generic check-ins. The chat, I explained, just became a daily reminder of the relationship I don't have with him, and I felt weird being in a group with people I don't know. I reminded him that I had asked him over and over for a real relationship and that it shouldn't be that hard. I was done getting my feelings hurt. The overall consensus? I didn't get the apology or the change I was hoping for. He basically doubled down on the group chat being the highlight of his day and how he gets to check on everybody that way. He never acknowledged my feelings, just said that the phone works both ways and he would be happy to take a call from me if I needed something. He said that my siblings and I are busy and he didn't want to be in the way. He also suggested we all meet in the city I live in, as if Brandon and his family can just pick up and travel with small children easily. I just said, no thank you, and he tried to call but I didn't answer. That was yesterday. We're a little snowed in here in Texas, and my dad sent me a photo of his hot chocolate today and said he was thinking of me. I was obsessed with hot chocolate when I was a kid, which I thought was nice. I did answer, but I can't help but feel like he's just trying to save face now. I'm just keeping my expectations low. Thanks everyone for reading and giving advice. I really appreciate you, more than you know. Well, OP, I'm sorry your dad didn't acknowledge his feelings and is just trying to brush past it. Also, this thing was supposed to be a relationship for you and him, not just the highlight of his day. He keeps making it about him. I know you want a relationship with him, but also take care of yourself and your heart. Keeping your expectations low, I think, is the best thing you can do at this point. So on that, here's wishing you the best, OP. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user randomperson101016. Am I the a-hole for leaving my stepbrother at school? I, 17 female, have a stepbrother who is 16 male, and we are really close. We always have been. However, recently I've decided to start living with my mom while he lives with my dad and his mom. But anyway, we live about 45 minutes away from each other. I would also like to note my brother lives about 5 minutes away from his school, which is easily a 15 to 20 minute walk. This is important later. So the other day, my stepmom, we will call Jane, texted me and said, "Hi OP, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I was wondering if you could pick up your stepbrothers from school. I understand it's far and I'm willing to pay you back for gas." I said yes, since I get out of school at 2 while he gets out at 3:30. So after school, I drove to pick him up. Then the next week, Jane asked me again to pick him up. I didn't really mind, but still I didn't want this to become a norm, so I texted Jane. I said, I don't mind picking up my stepbrother every once in a while, but I won't be able to do it every week since I have practice, after-school activities, etc. To which she replied with, "I totally understand, you're a teenager and have a life as well. I just hope you find it in your heart to make time for family, as it is most important." I was a little weirded out by this, but I picked him up anyway. The next week, she asked again. So I texted and said, "Unfortunately, this week I will not be able to pick him up. I have practice a lot more this week as we are getting ready for our championship game. So, sorry, maybe he can walk or go home with a friend." To which I got no reply. Anyway, it was Tuesday when she texted me and she asked me to pick him up Thursday. So on Thursday, I went about my business and went to practice, finished up my homework and ate dinner and went to sleep. The next day, I woke up to 6 missed calls from my dad, 3 missed calls from Jane, and 14 texts from Jane and my dad. Most of the texts were just them spamming my name, except 3 of them. The first from Jane. "I asked you to pick up stepbrother up from school, then he came home 30 minutes after school with chips and said he had to walk home. I hope you feel happy with him on the streets like that. He could have gotten kidnapped." The second from Jane, "You really don't give an F about your brother, and it shows. F you." The third from my dad, "I thought you were picking up stepbrother." Before I texted back, I called my stepbrother and asked if he thought I was picking him up. He said, "Mom," Jane, "said you were, but I get it. It's far away, so I didn't mind walking." I apologized and explained what happened. He believed me and said not to worry. I then replied to my dad and Jane and said, "I'm sorry he had to walk home. However, I'm not sorry I didn't pick him up. I told you the week prior that picking him up weekly just wasn't an option, and you asked anyway. So I texted you a full 24 hours ahead of time to tell you that I wouldn't be able to. It's not my fault you guys decided to ignore the text." They haven't replied yet, so I'm waiting for that. But anyway, now I'm wondering, am I the a-hole? Important information. The walk from school to home is about 15 to 20 minutes. It takes about 50 to 60 minutes to pick him up due to traffic. Stepbrother can't drive but is in the process of learning. She also only paid for my gas the first time. Also, this is important. Jane read the text and just didn't reply. Well, Opie, in my opinion, no, you weren't the a-hole. You told Jane everything that was going to happen and how things were going to go, and she decided to ignore you. It's on her. And this stupid guilt trip she's going on, yeah, you can just leave her on red as well. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Amiga the Devil 1973 says, not the a-hole. Stepmom read the text and chose not to respond. Enough warning was given. Stepbrother is 16, not 7, and should be okay with a 50-minute walk. Fire in the Flesh says, not the a-hole, but I would show your dad and mom where your stepmom said F you. That was highly inappropriate. I would also let them know that you do not live in their home and are a minor yourself and not responsible for her son. This is her responsibility and your dad's. Then, state you no longer feel comfortable with stepmom texting you. HBeck92 says, not the a-hole. Screenshot everything between you and Jane about this, including the FU texts. Start a new group chat with you, her and your mom and dad, and let them all see how that conversation actually went. I would also send a follow-up text that says, I love stepbrother, but I don't deserve to be talked to like this by Jane because she refused to accept my answer. So going forward, my answer is no. Don't even ask me anymore. Let your mom and dad handle it from there because Jane is out of line entirely. And Mim the Mad says, this is ridiculous. You should screenshot the texts with your stepmom and send them to your dad. It was an unreasonable ask in the first place. You communicated that you could not pick him up that day well in advance, and your stepmother was completely inappropriate with what she said to you after. Adults should not speak to children that way, period. Let alone that this is not your responsibility. You are not his parent. Opie's edit. A couple of people have pointed out that there's a storm coming to a lot of states. Thankfully, we are in Southern California and don't have to worry about that. For the people asking, I would also like to say that no, he has no physical disability and no, he isn't on the spectrum. He has mild ADHD, which doesn't affect him being able to walk home. And no, they live in a very safe neighborhood. Well, the community agrees OP is not the a-hole. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. So I posted this story about an hour ago and they finally answered my text. Jane said, I said F you in a joking way and I assumed you would pick him up anyways, hence I didn't reply. Anyway, you clearly don't show appreciation for your brother. And my dad said, I want no part of this anymore. It's between you and Jane. Coward. Anyway, I replied to Jane with, I couldn't tell you were joking as I can't read your tone through a text. I love my brother and that will never change. I just find it odd that I'm responsible to pick him up, but he can't walk 15 minutes when he is only a year younger than me. Also, I'm going to tell my mom tomorrow as she is on a work trip and comes home late tonight. Thanks for the help. Well, Opie, I think you handled it perfectly well. Put Jane in her place. Your dad's a coward, though. He should have shut it down. But regardless, it's not your issue anymore. So here's wishing you the best. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Soccer Girl. My boyfriend looked up spoilers to our favorite video game. So I did too. My boyfriend and I play Zelda Breath of the Wild together. I am a take your time and enjoy the ride kind of gal, while he is a let's look up how to beat this game right now kind of guy. Because his way ruins all the fun, we came up with a rule. No looking up spoilers. We were looking for a particular challenge. The 8 heroine side quest for my fellow Zelda nerds. For a very long time. Suddenly, my boyfriend said, I did something bad. I looked up where to go. I'm so sorry. I just couldn't take it anymore. I told him it was fine, but that he could not tell me what he had seen. He agreed. I then excused myself to the bathroom and looked up the location as well. I then spent the next hour and a half wandering so close to the location without ever making it there. I could see him squirming around in his seat every time I got close. When I jumped off the cliff the statue was built into, gliding down to the base of the statue and continuing on without turning around to look at it, I thought he was going to explode. He was clenching his hair in both fists and biting his lower lip trying to contain himself. That's when I caved and told him what I had done. He thought